Okay, so we say this Jaramalova prayers, and it's again, it's like an invocation. It's an invocation, begging for the Lord to be with us, to guide us in our discussions. Jaya Radha Dava Kunjabi Prem Si Kahao, Si Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Si Advaita, Gadara, Si Kasana, Si Gaura Bhakti, Si Si Radha, Krishna Gopal, Gopinath, Sam Kunda Radha, Kunda Giri Govardhan, Ki Suvrindavan Dham, Ki Samaya Panavadiv Dham, Ki Si Jagannath Dham, Ki Gangamai, Yamunamai, Ki Samatatosa Devi Bhakti Devi, Ki Samaveda Bhakti Ki Nitai Gaur Premanand. All glories to the Son of the devotees. All glories to the Son of the devotees. All glories to the Son of the devotees. All glories to Sister Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So today is we're going to discuss on the last text of chapter 14 in the matter of the three modes of material nature. This is the conclusion. In every thesis there is a conclusion. So this thesis on the three modes of material nature, Lord Krishna is concluding with this text. So the summary of the whole chapter is like embedded in this very text. Sum and substance of it, Krishna is declaring himself as the basis, as the foundation, as the bedrock of all existence. And he's giving us information about his non-dual nature. But that non-dual substance, non-dual transcendental substance is approached from three different angles or through three different dimensions. This is one of the foundational texts in the Vaishnava philosophy. This text is also extended to the discussions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll see that in Prabhupada's comments. So, let's go to text. So, chapter 14, Bhagavad-gita, text 27. Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Sasvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritya vyayasya cha.
Sasvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Sasvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Can someone try?
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Anyone else? Males? Okay, females? Ladies?
Brahmano hi pratistakam.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Sasvatyasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Any more ladies? All right, one to one. So today, no one. Ladies are not able to be the man.
It's a tongue twister. This one.
Huh?
This one's a tongue twister.
Okay. Hey, ladies. You know, every gathering we go, we say ladies and gentlemen. So the ladies are always having an upper hand. So why didn't you be the men also today? Well, yeah. Another lady could just make a mark and.
I'll try.
Okay, please do.
Brahmano hi pratistakam.
Brahmano hi pratistaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Sukhasya kantikasya cha.
Thank you very much. See, the point is, the Prabhupada wanted us to recite the verses. So we are all in the school of learning. Spiritual life is the process of learning. And if we try to do, we will make some effort to do something, we get purified. Just by having the desire to do it, we get purified. We get some reciprocation from Krishna. Because Krishna actually reciprocates not only by what we do, but just by our desire to perform some service to him. So this is also service. We are reciting the verse, and others are hearing, we are also hearing, and that is highly purifying. It's called kirtan. So it's not like a process of exercising one's erudition, but it's a service. A service that entails purification. So if we don't understand these minute details, then we could be so reserved and not be upfront to be able to participate in this Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada always was appreciative of, if you listen to his classes, in most of the classes in the West, if he finished the class, he says, "Oh, thank you for participating in this Krishna consciousness." So it is a participative process. So please have that in mind. So word for word translation: Brahmanaha, of the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, he Safim, Pratishta, the rest, Aham, I am, Amritasya, of the immortal, Avyayasya, of the imperishable, Cha, also, Saswatasya, of the eternal, Cha, and Dharmasya, of the constitutional position, Sukasya, of happiness, Ekantikasya, ultimate, Cha, also. So, translation by Divine Grace is confirmed. Char. Srila Bhachan bring me back to the dance from Papa Maharaj Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sorry. So translation: I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Please kindly respond for repeat. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, eternal, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Purport: the constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of transcendental realization. Paramatma, the Supersoul, is the middle, the second stage in transcendental realization, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and impersonal Brahman are within the Supreme Person. It is explained in the 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with fragments of the superior nature, and that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. When a living entity conditioned by this material nature begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman, conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage of self-realization, and at this stage the Brahman realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples of this in Vedic literature. The four Kumaras were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further, with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is a chance of falling down if one is not engaged in devotional service of the Lord. In the Vedic language it is said, Rasa Vaisaha Rasam Hi Evayam Labdavanandi Bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendentally blissful. This is excerpt from the Taittiriya Upanishad 271. The Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these 6 opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king. And so eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman, or eternity, or imperishability is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service. The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has a desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the 3 modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of the 3 modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering, the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in a lost transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord had his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti, or the different varieties of the Brahman conception, is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. Omagyanati Mirandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Saksuram Meditam Jena Tasmai Se Gurave Namaha Suchetam Anovistam Stafitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamaya Dadati Swa Padantikam. Vanchakalpatari Decha, Kripa Sundabya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Yitinam. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gora Vani Pacharini, Nirvisesa Swanya Bhadi Pasatya Disatara. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadara, Sri Vasadi, Sri Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
So again, welcome to 26th Avenue, Matchless Gifts, here right here in New York. And like I always mention before we have action listening classes, this is the very first place that Srila Prabhupada, the founder of Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, this is his first temple. And so those of you who are coming to this place, this is not different from Vrindavan, because this temple has been there. This is a place where Prabhupada has used for his worship personally. This is where he started a movement, he started teaching people in the West. He started all here. And so this place is it's a theater. So you're lucky if even you don't have the time to go to India or go to Mayapur, you go to Vrindavan, you come here, you're right in the theater, in holy place. If you all you will remember and honor that would be great. So that's one popular verse in the Bhagavatam, Vedanti Tattva Vedas Tattvam Yajnanam Advaya Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sajjate. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, impersonal Brahman or the Brahman Jyoti, everybody here, including me, including my humble self, we have some radiation, some light, and the more you become very advanced in spiritual life, you can see that radiation emanating from people, especially the area of their face. And so that is called Brahman, or impersonal light. And that impersonal light, basically, where do we get that? Lord Krishna mentions in the Gita that, in this very Gita, Lord Krishna mentions that everyone is his part and parcel. So we do acquire qualities that Krishna originally has. So Krishna also has that effulgence. But he is so powerful. It's so dazzling. It's so blinding. And so, that very impersonal aspect of Krishna permeates the whole of the universe. And the sun is basically a reflection of Krishna's Brahman Jyoti. And so when we talk about Brahman, we're talking about God. When people say God is light, they're right. But that is a relative truth. Relative truth in the sense that it is not absolute. When we talk about light, you see this is light. So light is basically coming from the powerhouse. So the light is the energy, the powerhouse is the energetic source. So when we talk about effulgence or Brahman effulgence or Brahman or God is light, yeah, God is light. The light is an energy, and energy is connected with energetic. What about the energetic? Light does not just come from nowhere. Light comes from a powerhouse. Light is generated from a powerhouse. So about the Brahman, so Lord Krishna mentions in this text here, with which is concluded this very chapter, that he is the basis of impersonal Brahman. And so, in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned that, Vedanti Tattva Vedas, that, this non-dual substance is known by the transcendentalists as the Brahman, the Paramatma, and Bhagavan. I mean, it's like, if your train is passing, it's a night, someone far off will just see the beaming light of the train, so bright. And he may conclude, or she may conclude, especially in the villages, someone may conclude, oh, that train, that what I know, what I've heard about train, is just light, a beaming light. I always say it's a beaming light. Yeah, that may be right, but that light is connected with something. Light does not come from nowhere. So the Brahman effulgence, or the spirit that we're talking about, that God is spirit, I mean, this is a very, very common concept in most traditions, like in Christianity and in other traditions. We understand that, it's general conception, God is light. God is spirit. Yeah, it's true. But it's a relative truth. Relative in the sense that there is a higher principle. Because we can't say a torchlight or a flashlight is not coming. Someone is not using a flashlight. If we see the beaming light, it's flashing, someone is responsible for that. For that. So we can't just conclude, it's just a beaming light. Also, okay, you go to the traffic, to the junction, you see the traffic light. Or you're moving along the street, driving, you see the traffic light. You may say, oh, this automatic light, that's amazing. America, oh, wow. It's being operated by, by some engineers remotely from a particular source. And so, the Bhagavatam explains that this very Brahman effulgence of the Lord is not the ultimate. It's the first stage in God realization. It's the first stage in God realization. So this text is characterizing or is describing the qualities of that Brahman effulgence. If you attain Brahman effulgence, what are your qualities? What are your experiences? Even if we attain Brahman realization, we don't have business with material enjoyment anymore. No sex, no looking for sweets to eat around the corner. We'll not be going to the burger shop to look for, give me this, but don't give me the meat. Sometimes people do that, right? I'm a vegetarian. Just give me the stew, but don't put the meat. So, the point is, we will not search for anything else. It's just the first stage of God realization, the first stage of Krishna, or realizing Krishna. When we attain that stage, finish. Why? Because here it is mentioned. It's characterized by eternity, immortality, imperishability, happiness. Who here doesn't want to be happy? In fact, our very slogan in Krishna consciousness is chant and be happy. We are looking for happiness. I'm not looking for happiness. Raise up your hand. I don't see any hands, so I presume that everyone is looking for happiness. And therefore, that is just that one of the concomitant factors of realizing Brahman effulgence. It's an accompanying, like if you have a child who likes to play with a tire, a vehicle tire. So the child will say, "Hey dad, hey mom, I need my tire to run around, in the yard." But if you have a limousine, you buy the limousine, they give you a spare tire. You don't need to go to some store to buy a tire for your child. There's a spare tire that comes with your limousine. So you can give your child to play with it. I mean, you can give the spare tire for your child to play with. Similarly, if you attain Bhagavan, you already attain the Brahman effulgence. You don't need extra effort to be able to pursue that. Happiness is already there. And so the Paramatma realization is also described in the Bhagavatam as that stage that, a number of the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, that is the stage he attained. I remember one of these Greek philosophers, when he was about to be put to death, when they found him guilty, they prosecuted him and found him guilty, during the allocutus, he said, "So what have you got to say? You're doomed. You're condemned to death. What's your last? What have you got to say?" And his response was, "Hey, you have to catch me first. You cannot kill me except you catch me." Can you imagine if somebody has been, condemned to death, and they are giving me a chance to present his last, what message you have for your family, or what have you got to say in this court before you moved out? He said, "Hey, first you have to catch me." That is a very high realization. Super high. So we're talking about Vaishnava philosophy, but look, this I'm talking about a Greek philosopher. You see the consciousness of people on the planet, how there are different gradations of consciousness. And so, one who realizes the Paramatma, is completely different. He's experiencing that, not only the Sat, but he's also experiencing that Ananda, bliss. And he's feeling completely aloof from the material body. Completely aloof. He's in a difference. He is not really attached to the material body anymore. He's free from all attachments to the material body. Others are looking for, he's seeing beyond the material body. In fact, those who have attained that level, they don't see material bodies, a beautiful woman or handsome man or something. No, they don't look at that. A dog or a cow. No, they don't look at. They don't see those bodies. And therefore, they have respect for every embodied soul. The pure obeisance is even to the dogs. Why? Because they are seeing the super soul in the dog. They're not seeing the dog's body. So sometimes we hear this type of stuff, and we wonder, where are these Krishna people? What are they talking about? But it's not about Krishna people. What's the name of that Greek philosopher who told it? He's the people who condemned him to death that first year.
Socrates.
Socrates. Now, who amongst us here that you're about to be executed, you're condemned to death, and you have the guts, the courage to tell, hey man, I'm not this body. You're not killing me. We are not that realized. Again, you find the case of Haridas. Haridas was whipped. 22 marketplaces also. And the idea was to kill him. But he couldn't die. So the people who were delegated to do that service in court, to kill him, beat him to death. They got afraid. They were scared that, hey, we're not able to do our duty, So this guy is going to execute us. So Haridas, out of pity, he pretended to be dead. That is a different consciousness, a very high realization. Then you beat them and it doesn't feel the pain. Lord Chaitanya was the one who's accepting all of those beatings. Who says there is no God? When even the Greek philosopher Socrates, right?
Yes.
Even Socrates said, before you kill me, you have to catch me. How are you going to catch your soul? This is something to ponder on. Because sometimes we talk about the stages, and then we say, this is a very Asian culture, Asian philosophy, Indian stuff. Socrates is not an Indian guy. He's a great philosopher, a Westerner. So there is something substantial on this planet. There is some substance on this planet. There is a philosophical substance on this planet. There is something spiritually substantial on this planet. We have to tap into it. And so Krishna consciousness gives us that opportunity to be able to realize those higher principles in this life. So that someone who has attained Paramatma, there's no question of discrimination. There's no question of bias. No. But you know, we may make so many laws just to be able to keep things in order. But except people actually realized, it is so difficult to just follow laws. It's so difficult to just follow laws because otherwise there wouldn't be, you know, all these red lights, you know, checking people. When you cross the red light at the wrong time, you get a ticket later. You see no one is there, but you know, some impersonal photographer is there to take it. You know, get your information and then, you know, they get your ticket later. So you have the Brahman realization, the Paramatma realization. Paramatma means the Lord in the heart. Ishvara Sabra Bhutanam Redi Se Arjuna Tistati. Lord Krishna mentioned, I am the super soul in each and every one's heart. What is the super soul doing there? What is it doing? Just to monitor you? What you have gone wrong? No. He's not just interested in monitoring people who have gone wrong and send them to jail. He's interested in trying to create a conducive atmosphere where the conditioned soul could be directed back to seeking for a clearer vision of their pristine identity, of the original identity. And therefore, if we are sincere about our efforts in trying to figure out where we're coming from, where we are going, the super soul is there in our hearts. We can lie to everybody else. The super soul is there in our hearts. We can be so staunch in doing, you know, a number of things. But if we recognize that the super soul is there in our hearts, we could really do things in a very astonishing and productive way because we know there is a witness. So yeah, the super soul is there as a witness, but it is not only there to witness any of our mishaps or any of our mistakes. It's there to inspire, to motivate us to move forward in our search for the absolute truth. This is the beauty. Who loves us more than the super soul, more than Krishna? Even when we experiencing the most difficult things, the super soul does not abandon us. He's with us. We may say, oh, this is my beloved. But if there is some problem, suppose your spouse has so much, is a multi-billionaire, and then all the money all of a sudden is gone. I've seen cases like that. Wife is very happy, husband is very opulent, or the man is very happy because the wife is very wealthy, and all of a sudden there is a mishap. All of the wealth is gone. And at some point in time, you know, they get tired of supporting the other party because, you know, we have our limitations, right? They say, what do you do? What do you want?
I didn't do anything.
So, the bottom line is that, yeah, Krishna as a super soul is there to help us to grow in our spiritual life. If we just realize that we could just be praying to Krishna. But, you know, the mistake in this on the Paramatma is that we are very much vulnerable to being misguided because in a number of cases we find people who are just pursuing the Paramatma realization and they make mistakes. When they perceive the super soul and in humans, what's the size of the Paramatma?
Like thumb size, right? The size you say?
Yeah.
Thumb size, or sometimes they say about 6 or 7 inches, something.
Anyway, so a Paramatma is there,
Huh? Yeah.
but the point is that the Paramatma is there to be able to facilitate our needs. Paramatma is there as a facilitator. But when the Gadbas or the yogis, some of the yogis, when they realize the Paramatma, the vulnerability here is they think, I am that, oh, I have realized myself, so I am God. This is the problem without being guided. If you perceive the Paramatma, and then, because at that time, you could really, it's completely different. The tendency is to think, I am that Paramatma. That is the greatest mistake the yogis do. And they become like, offenders. It's so easy. Power intoxicates. And it's so easy for someone who is spiritual to be misled. And so the yogi, some of these unfortunate yogis, is realize the Paramatma, but instead of identifying the Paramatma as the supreme and the Jiva. Now, there are two souls within this body. One is the Paramatma, one is the Jiva. One is the Vishnu Tattva, and one is the Jiva Tattva. The Paramatma is the Vishnu Tattva, and the individual soul is the Jiva Tattva. The Jiva Tattva is so minuscule, it's so small, it's so infinitesimal. It's not easy for us to perceive the Jiva Atma even under the highest power of the microscope. But the Paramatma, the yogis realize they misidentify the Paramatma to be themselves. And then they begin to become offensive. They think, I am the Paramatma. You are Paramatma. You are the Supreme. You are the Supreme. So this is a very strong misconception that derail people significantly from the path of self-God realization. So besides the Paramatma, there is the Bhagavan realization. The Bhagavan realization is ultimately you find that in Krishna Loka, Krishna is the original form, this bluish black, a blackish form of Lord Krishna, playing a flute. Prabhupada was mentioning in one lecture that some Westerner, I think some European, went to Kolkata, and then he went to the different temples. And he also came to ISKCON Kolkata temple. And then at ISKCON Kolkata temple, he saw Radha and Krishna. Krishna was playing flute. And so his conclusion was that, he said, I've been to all these other temples. Some of the temples I found the God, the worship, is fighting. Or he's doing something, he's killing somebody, or, doing something very, really frightening. But he said, but in this temple I come and I see God. He has nothing to do. He's enjoying. He's playing the flute. So don't tell me anything. This is God. The other ones, I don't believe that they're God. Yeah. He said, God is here. I can just see that. No, he's playing. He's just enjoying his life. So these are basic fundamental principles that any intelligent person could just admit or make an assessment and conclude his judgment that, yeah, this is it. So Bhagavan realization is encompassing everything. Everything is embodied in the Bhagavan realization. Now, even Lord Brahma himself mentions in the Srimad Bhagavatam that a number of yogis, a number of people, when they attain the Brahman effulgence, during the time of liberation, at the time they leave the body, they attain the Brahman effulgence. Now, the tendency is just to enjoy that, because Brahman effulgence is full of happiness. And we are looking for happiness in this world. So you attain that position, a tendency just to be comfortable, and then you keep enjoying. and they forgot that you have to really associate. And then at some point in time, no matter how much money you have, you can't just enjoy yourself internally or for a long. You can't have lasting enjoyment just by yourself. You need some association, and that is why people, they work so hard. They got so many degrees. They acquired the money. They got so much money, but ultimately they have to settle down with somebody. They need a family. They need someone to enjoy their wealth with them. Because you can't just enjoy alone. You feel dry. You can't just enjoy by yourself alone. And so people, when the yogi attains even the Brahman effulgence, at some point in time, they get freaked out because they don't have association, and they want to come back to to the material world, or they are forced to come back to the material world to engage in some philanthropic activities, some pious activities. And so Lord Brahma said that such people, they come back, they come to this material world. That's a particular verse. I can't exactly. The verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Brahma says that those. I will sue, yeah. I will sue the Buddha. Arya Krishna Parampadam Patantya Do Nadista Yusman Angria. So Lord Brahma mentioned that, they claim that they are liberated. But my conclusion is that I will sue the Buddha. They are Visuddha Buddha. They are just liberated the mind. Because they are there, they are not going to be satisfied for a long time. They're not going to be satisfied with just living by themselves in that Brahman effulgence, and they will fall down again. Prabhupada also mentions that in the purport. So, the idea is that people, we need association, we need Sangha. We can't be by ourselves. Even the super soul has an associate. The super soul in the heart has an associate. Is it Jiva? Yeah. And therefore, the attainment of the Brahman effulgence is not the end all or be all. It's just a stepping stone. So in the Vedic literature, the delineation is properly given, and the tendency for people to become entrapped in the Brahman effulgence is minimized because they realize that people realize that the authorities, Brahman is the chief authority of this universe, not just this planet, but this universe. So Lord Brahma says, that those who attain the Brahman effulgence, the probability of their falling down to this material world is very high. It's the improbability of their not falling down is 1 infinity. In other words, the probability of falling down from that Brahman effulgence is very high. Why? Because they don't have association. Yeah, they are full of happiness, they are eternal, but the living entity wants association. And therefore, it is befitting that one struggles to attain the Bhagavan realization. Because the Bhagavan realization, you have all of these facilities in the spiritual world. Whether you go to Vaikuntha Loka, there are so many people there, you can have good association. If you go to Krishna Loka, oh my God, there's so much of variegatedness of enjoyment. You can have, anything you need. You don't have to work so hard to be happy. You don't have to work so hard to buy something to eat. In fact, even in the spiritual world, the fruits, the trees are kalpa-vriksha trees. You go to one tree, if you go to an orange tree, you can get your papaya, your pawpaw, your banana, your mango, everything. Whatever you wish, whatever you desire, the tree just manifests. So, And you know, in the spiritual world, people they live in the people there, they're superlatively handsome, superlatively attractive. What are we doing here in this material world? And these are bodies are very perishable. Huh? Very perishable. The bodies are not perishable. So there's the ocean. You go to here you can't even go to bed in the ocean because it's salty. Because you're afraid of getting some contamination, or even just the salt alone on your skin. I mean, it could be so undesirable. But in the spiritual world, there are different oceans. If you are the type that wants to bathe in the milk ocean, wow, it's there. So, sometimes people ask, going to spiritual world, I'm okay here. Go there to do what? I have everything here. Why should I struggle to go there? For what? I'm happy here. Yeah, we may be happy here, but the happiness cannot be compared to the one in the spiritual world. I mean, it's like a drop of water in the ocean. And therefore, it is important to follow Papa's instructions here. That if we participate in Christian consciousness, if we get involved in Christian consciousness, doing devotional service, following the standard of the 9 processes, hearing, Savanam Ketanam, hearing and chanting, beginning with hearing and chanting, doing some service. So here's the temple. If you ask yourself, I've been coming here for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you ask yourself, what service am I rendering to Krishna? Because without service, we don't get quickly purified. We can come and hear the lectures, but then we should ask, the temple management, what service can I do? We should have a sense of belonging. Devotional service is not just some dry philosophy. It is something very practical that we do, and we have realizations. So we chant Hare Krishna means we ask him for service. We're begging Krishna, please, Lord Krishna, engage me in your service. Krishna, Hare, Krishna, Rama, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all pleasure, a devotional principle, devotional energy of the Lord. Please engage me in your service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the prescribed method of attaining even the Brahman effulgence that is so intriguing, as described in this text, we don't need to pursue that. We perform devotional service, and that is already part and parcel of the devotional culture. You will attain that level of realization very quickly. You don't even know that you've attained it. You just pass through. And so we have to think about this, realizing the Lord. The sum and substance of this text is that the Lord could be realized on 3 phases: the Brahman, the spirit; the Paramatma, the super soul; and the Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead. And it's like a trinity, God in 3 persons. The Brahman effulgence, the Paramatma realization, and the Bhagwan realization. The spirit realization is all pervasive, the Brahman Jyoti, effulgence of the Lord, permeating the whole of the cosmos. The Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, or the super soul, and the Supreme Personality of God, who is residing in his own kingdom in the spiritual world. And we are all, human beings. We are created in the image of God. The Bible tells us we're created in the image of God. Yeah, Krishna has 2 hands, 2 legs like us. But it's not white, it's not black, because if it's white or black, some will start fighting and claiming it's about God. It's bluish black, so you tell me which race that is bluish black. So we can claim him. He's God for everybody. So he has two hands, like we do. One head, two eyes, two nostrils, one mouth. But his body is eternal. He's full of knowledge. And he's all full of bliss without taking any intoxications. And the process of attaining that supreme person is given in the Vedic literature, in the Bhagavad-gita. It begins with chanting of, in the Kali Yoga, in this present dispensation, there's no need to endeavor so much for so many things. The beginning, the middle, and the end is chanting of Krishna's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So any comments or questions so far? Yeah, we are not. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking, you know, it was talking about a progression from the spirit to the Paramatma, to God, to Krishna, and as grown up in Christianity, like hardcore Christianity, you kind of already have that understanding as God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So I feel, as a little girl, I've understood Paramatma, God in my heart. And as a little girl, I've always did some devotional service. So you may be giving out flyers for Bible club or whatever it is. So now that I'm here, right, solidifying my practice, I don't understand why it's so difficult to cultivate like bhakti or attraction to bhakti, like the attraction to not really kirtan, but like serving others. Or just service in general, like why is it so hard to cultivate that? Like for Krishna, I have it, but for other people, it's like a whole different ball game, and I'm just trying to figure out.
Sure. Why is it difficult?
Yeah, or like what is it that we can do to develop that more so attraction or whatever it is.
Okay, thank you. It's a nice point. Okay, I'm serving Krishna. Doing some service to Krishna, but what can I do to facilitate service to devotees? And because service to devotees, serving Krishna by Krishna himself, is so difficult, and we're not there yet. Okay. So, yeah, first thing is philosophy. We have to understand what are the implications of not serving the devotees. So I'll give you a brief story. When Mother Yasoda was trying to bind Lord Krishna to the wooden garden model, she tried to do that, and each time you have like three fingers that of the rope shorter of like 3 fingers. And so our acharyas, I don't know the exact person, I don't know whether it's Vishwanath Chakravarti or someone else, it mentions the significance of that. That yes, our personal effort in devotional service, good. Now, that personal effort should be accompanied with the mercy of the devotees, the mercy of the spiritual master. Because we are not really seeing Krishna. We are seeing the devotees around us. And therefore, our relationship with other devotees is what's going to be most appealing to Krishna. And therefore, the way that we can really appeal to other people is to try to serve them. Now, why should we serve them? We see, I remember, one of my writings in my master thesis, I was writing something on service. And so here, one of the reviewers of the paper who didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, he said, she was a lady, She said, what you say there is really practical. So I was mentioning that. See, even the president of the country is actually serving. He's a servant. He's serving his country. The breadwinner of the family is actually a servant. He's serving his family or her family. He's serving the children, serving the parents, serving everybody in the family. But the difficulty is that we are confronted with an intrinsic negative tendency, and that is our Ishvara Bhav. We like to control. Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. We like to control. And sometimes it's just like a big struggle, a big fight. Even children. These days you go to some homes, and then the child is the one who has to, choose the station, the channel. And if you don't allow them to do that, there's a fight. And some of the parents, they just surrender to the child because it's just going to bring a fight. So even as a child, we have that Ishvara Bhav. As we are growing up, that Ishvara Bhav does not leave us alone. So if we all recognize that my Ishvara Bhav is creating a limitation in my tendency or in my inclination to serve others, then that brings us to the level that we are conscious of what is obstructing our service attitude to others. And then we have to mellow down on that Ishvara Bhav. In fact, we don't lose anything if we simply ask others, okay, what's your opinion? What to do? Okay, this is what we have to, okay, let's do it in the way you want. It saves so much trouble. It saves so much trouble, But if I want to do it in my own way, I say, look, I'm the Swami. This is what you have to do, okay? You do it or you leave it. Now, it doesn't take people to anywhere. Because even in your homes, if you have a child of 11, 12 years, if you really understand what is family development, you will seek opinion of your child who is 11 or 12 years. Why? Because 11 or 12 years, both kids have attained puberty. And someone who attained puberty, the brain is fully developed like that of a 50-year-old person. You may see them as a small body. But you do something and you think that they will let you go. You go free. No. They may not have the guts to tell you. You may play around. You may play a wife. You may play a husband. You may play a father. But if you're a child, 11 years old, you can't play them. They may not tell you. They may not challenge you. But at the proper time, when you say something, they will talk to you back. And so, we have that Ishvara Bhav. We tend to control, and we don't want to bring out our service attitude. The service also is there. The service attitude is also there. There are two things there. Ishvara Bhav and service attitude. But Ishvara Bhav tends to overwhelm us. And so, when we recognize that this is an obstacle, then we give a room to the service attitude. That concept of dasa dasa anudas. I'm a servant of the servant of the servant. And I need to really do that. Look, when we go to work, what are we doing? We're serving. We're serving. Whether we like it or not, we are servants. Even the managing director in the office, he is serving the organization. He's serving the organization, yeah. And so why don't we transfer that service attitude to our family members? Why don't we transfer that service attitude to the community of devotees? Why don't you transfer that service attitude to our friends? I'm talking about Ishvara Bhav. That creates a lot of conflict even in families. Especially within a patriarchal system. The man is always thinking, I am the controller. Whatever I say should be final. These days, we find a number of women, they don't want to compromise with anything that is not what they desire or what they want. So it's both ways. And therefore, the main obstacle is the Ishvara Bhav. Bring out, invoke that service attitude, dasa anudas conception, and use that in place of the Ishvara Bhav. And that gives way for, real mutual coexistence, good relationship, friendliness, and everything that you can think of. And then your growth in devotional service becomes superlatively high. It's so easy to serve Krishna, but without pleasing his devotees, we're going nowhere. Because when you knock on the door of Lord Krishna, it's the spiritual world. So, where are the people you brought along with you? But without being friendly, without that loving relationship, I mean, who is going to align with you to go to where you want to go?
More so like the attachment. Like, where does the attachment come in? You know what I mean? You can have a taste for it, but where's the attachment?
Attachment for what?
For service.
Attachment for
I
service.
see so much people who have it. You know what I mean?
Attachment for service is coming from, Lord Krishna mentions in the Gita, by practice, repeated practice. If you go on doing something, you become attached to it. I'll give you one example. In bonding.
Bond.
Huh?
Bonded.
Yeah. B-O-N-D.
Oh, bond.
But yeah, if you want to create a bond with someone, keep talking to them. And very soon you become attached. Oh yeah. So, you want to be attached to Krishna, just keep chanting his holy names. You want to be attached to service, just keep doing some service. And then, at some point in time, any day you are lacking in it, you become restless. So it's a matter of, repeatedly doing it. Yeah. It's a practice that we need to do. Like, if you are good, if you are someone who is going out to do something every day, the day, maybe you are not even, you're not healthy, doctor says, okay, you rest today, you still feel restless, you want to go. Because that has been a habit.
Right.
Habit creates your future. Yeah. What we do repeatedly turns into a habit. And habits are very difficult to give up. You have to go into some real, therapy to be able to unlearn it, to undo it. So service is also like that. Devotional service is also like that. We just practice. It might not be so juicy in the beginning, but like I mentioned, philosophy. We understand this is the goal. This is where it's going to lead me. This habit or this practice, this is where it's going to lead me. It's going to lead me to attachment to Krishna, attachment to service. So even we don't feel so it's not so juicy to do it, we just force ourselves to do it. And at some point in time, it becomes very spontaneous and juicy.
I see.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm having a hard time with the Hindu words to be able, like you said in the beginning, it cleans your soul and it just helps with what you're supposed to do. But a lot of times I'll skip over it and just read the English part because I'm having such a hard time with it. You know what I can do to understand? Like I want to be able to understand it.
Yeah. So what would happen? I'd give you my own personal practical example. When I joined the temple when I was pretty young, in my middle 20s, 25, 26 or so. So I didn't, because I thought, as a brahmachari, I'm going out to preach. I'm not going to start talking to people in Sanskrit. Let me understand the philosophy. So I would just read voraciously to understand the fundamental principles of the philosophy. And it has served a lot. But then, as years unfold, if I'm reading something, there are some things that I read, and even some text, like the verse I quoted here that Atma facilitated the invocation of it. No, that verse, like the first time I read it in the Bhagavad-gita, I mean, it just seemed to me that I know this thing before. So I mean, I just repeat it for like 2 or 3 times, and then I just became embedded in my mind, and I didn't make an endeavor for it. So what I did was just to read voraciously and get the knowledge to be able to interact with people and talk to people, and these Sanskrit things became like a secondary thing that I did at some point in time. And some devotees, right from the beginning, they were memorizing verses, and that I appreciate that, but I had a different approach. Yeah, I had a different approach. So for you, I would suggest, for now, you need a strong foundation in the philosophy, to be able to defend what you're doing, what you're practicing, if someone comes to challenge you. So read, and don't just feel frustrated when you're not really attracted to the Sanskrit words for now. Read the philosophy, because the good thing is Prabhupada has given his text in such a way that most of the words he uses, he gives an explanation or a meaning. Yeah, so like even the word-for-word translation, those are good things. But those things, they sap your energy. They really like pull you. So for you, I would suggest just read the English, get grounded in the philosophy, and as in the future you will be attracted to the Sanskrit also. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. In the absence of
Is devotional service more important than chanting?
Chanting is part of devotional service. It's actually the foundation of devotional service. Devotional service basically implies principles or processes, and the chanting is the preeminent process. It's the beginning, the end, the middle, and then the end. When we are chanting, we are actually asking Lord Krishna to engage us in his service. That's why I was mentioning about service. So chanting and devotional service, they are not different, but they are different, because chanting is a process in devotional service. It's the foundation of devotional service. Devotional service entails hearing and chanting and a number of other processes. Okay? Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
When you're getting towards the point when you feel like you're needing a guru, I mean, is that something you really consciously look for, or you just sort of let that intuitively happen by way of being involved with the people that you're associating with, that are maybe more Krishna conscious than you and/or are devotees? I mean, how do you approach it, or is it different for every individual?
Yeah, basically, it is different for individuals, and I would say based on my limited lived experience, I've seen cases where people are not really attracted to accepting shelter from anybody for a long time. There are some people in the beginning, they like to align with somebody, and then in some cases later they feel that they were quick, or they made some wrong choice or something like that. So I would suggest that the best thing is to be able to, if you will come to devotional service, we should read Prabhupada's books, associate with devotees, see Prabhupada as our grand spiritual master, and read his books. And then when we listen to different speakers, and see the person, figure out who is the person that are most aligned with their teachings or what they speak. Which of these really touches my heart the most? Which of these speakers that touches my points, my needs, without me telling the person that this is my problem or this is my situation? So then basically you realize that sort of a situation could help you better. And accessibility. If you accept someone, like I was in South America at one time, and the devoted brahmachari who came helping me, I asked him, well, whom is he aspiring for? He said, he gave me the number one Swami in India. He's an American, he's a European, but he lives in India. So I said, has he ever been to your country? He said, no. I said, so have you been communicating with him? He said, no. I said, but in the Gita, in the Gita, Lord Krishna was speaking to Arjuna. Arjuna had Lord Krishna as his guru. He was speaking to Lord Krishna face to face. And Krishna was clarifying all of his ambiguities. I said, accepting a guru should not be based on, you hear this is a very great personality, he's a very popular personality, and he has many disciples all over the world, and then you get enamored by the external features and not really understanding the essence of the relationship. It's a very strong and deep relationship. It's a relationship that you need to understand that this person, I should be able to have access to him at the time I needed him the most. So later, he changed his mind. And then he approached somebody who has been coming to his country. I mean, that was a practical approach. And so sometimes we need to have some proper understanding about the process of aligning with someone, because we will have some problems at some point in time of our spiritual life. We'll be confronted. We'll be at a crossroad. Is this person accessible to me? Any other comments? All right. In the absence of any other team, any other discussions, we'll adjourn this meeting. We'll continue with the Kirtan. Thank you very much for participating in this Krishna consciousness.